In 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
The electricity here in Columbia, well, has been buzzing loudly all weekend.
Passion of the crowd in Williams-Brice Stadium is second to none.
And the rave breaks out in Columbia.
It is good!
Gamecock fans, welcome home.
See how it goes, but we'll be ready to go.
It's time to root.
Let's go, Carolina! It's gone! Touchdown! What a hit! He baked it in! Can you believe it? Gamecocks have won this game!
Here are your hosts, J.C. Sherber.
Oh, watch him celebrate now!
Phil Molinex.
My wife doesn't like hanging around losers.
And Jamie Bradford.
I'm going to tell him, you look like you joined Duck Dynasty.
All right, greetings and good morning. Welcome aboard and welcome home. Inside the Gamecocks, the show live from the Signorama Studios, the preferred sign partner of Gamecock Athletics, and built by the Barndoco, the barndominiumco.com, where you can build your dream home in 4 states right now: North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, and Tennessee for $160 per square foot. Some of those are not going to be that low, but they are beautiful, beautiful dream-style homes. And if you go to the barndominiumco.com, you won't regret taking a peek if that is what you want to do. I mean, if you want to build a home here in the future. JC is off today. He has been traveling. It has been a whirlwind for our friend. I'm telling you, he has had the worst time flying, and he's finally back in Chicago, and he is going to take a day, not answer phone calls. If any of you know him personally, don't call him and don't text him. Leave him alone. He'll be back tomorrow, and he's got some stuff to get through over the next couple of days from a work standpoint, and then he'll be headed back down here to the South, as in South Carolina, where Gamecock football is right now currently underway, getting ready for the 2023 season. We'll talk about some of the great games in history. Great is Phil, that's a stretch because, it's really games that came down to a field goal kick. And some of them worked out and some of them didn't for the Gamecocks over the years. So we'll go back into some of that. Why are we? Because they're one of the, if not the, best special teams unit in the country, at least entering the season. A lot can change between now and then, of course, but Mitch Jeter has been pretty reliable at the field goal position, and we all know about Kai Kroger punting, but we're talking about field goals today. So if you can think back in your brain of a game that you have been to that always clicks when you think of a game ender, whether it was on the winning side or the losing side for South Carolina, put it into the Nana Sports chat box, and we will fuss and discuss. I've got a laundry list of them. Some were really, really fun, and some they weren't a lot of fun. And I was present for a lot of them as well. So we'll get into that here just a little bit. David Cloninger is coming up in about 20 minutes with the Post and Courier. Get an update from his side and his point of view on what Carolina has been able to accomplish early on in camp. I guess technically about the first week or so of preseason camp. We will also talk about what the future of the college football playoff could potentially look like now with conference realignment shaking up everything once again. And it's kind of getting to a point where it might just be time to say, you know what, the hell with all the fancy stuff. Let's just go to the 12 best teams in the sport and let them play for the dadgum thing. Forget the whole championship deal and the whole 9 yards, but we're going to get to that here. Just a little bit. I mentioned the Nana Sports chat box. Did talk to Chris this morning on the phone for a while. Chris, if you're watching or listening, it was good to catch up with you. What a great guy. All of you will get a chance who will be attending the pregame party in Charlotte to meet Chris with Nana's Porch and try out some of his unbelievable food. Can't wait for that buffet, Phil. you and I will we will kindly let everybody know that we will be the first ones in line, and they can all get the hell out of the way. Y'all will eat when we're done. How about that?
Yeah, I like it. Yeah, just step aside, let us through. Nobody gets hurt.
Yeah, look here. I'm going to say this. I'm going to say it once. That's it. Listen to what I'm telling you. Because I've been craving the pimento cheese since the Carolina Rise event at Home Team Barbecue in Mount Pleasant. And he gave me some, and I brought it home, and JC ate it all on my back porch while we were watching Carolina baseball. I was like, dude, you got to be kidding me. So, yeah, we're looking forward to getting up there for that as well. And also, I'm really excited personally because we'll have some of our friends from the Barndo Co. coming, and Alicia is just a wonderful, wonderful human being. So anybody that might want to meet them and talk to them about some of the things that we tell you that they do every day, that'll be a good chance certainly for that. But Phil, good morning, my man.
Good morning. Good morning. I had a rough start this morning, but finally turned it around. Yeah, a minute late, Bobby. I hear you. That was my fault.
Bobby on you? He's all over you, huh? I didn't see that.
Yeah, that's all right. That's all right.
Yeah, well, that's all right. Hey, we're here again. JC, he'll be back tomorrow. I know it's killing him. I even told him last night. I said, "Don't click the button tomorrow. Just chill."
I didn't even send him a link. I was like, you know what? I'm not even going to give him a chance to jump in today.
Don't let him do it. Absolutely, totally agree with you. We are, of course, a part of the Chief Sports Network as well. All right, filling it up already here. Hey, Xavier, what's up? We are here to talk football. There's no doubt about that. Mark is in from Vegas again. It's been hot here, Mark. What's the temperature in Vegas? Give us a weather report. 76 is a present and counted for. We appreciate that. Papa Duck is on the Beamer bandwagon, as he spelled out his name promptly in the Nana Sports chat box. Jamie said the best was 2006 at Clemson. The worst was 2007 at Florida. Yeah, so 2006 at Clemson was Jad Dean, as we all well know. Old Jad made Carolina fans really, really happy that day, and it broke a 4-game losing streak, if memory serves me correct. 2, 3, 4, 5. Yes, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yeah, I'm looking at it now.
2001.
2, 3, 4, 5. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that one was fun. There's no doubt. 2000 and I was about to say, Jamie, you're talking about 2006 at Florida, because that was the what was the guy's name that had failed the drug test and they still let him play for Florida? Jarvis Moss.
Mm-hmm.
When he blocked the kick. Yeah, that was wild. Well, I mean, the thing is it happened 2 weeks before the Clemson game. And when that kick got blocked. And so when you in the Clemson game, I don't know if any of you were like me, but I'm sitting here thinking, oh no, this thing's gonna go through the uprights and it's gonna happen again. Something is going to break Carolina's heart again, and it didn't. He missed it, and South Carolina was able to win. And then they would go on to the to Memphis and play Houston in the bowl game, and they scored 44 points in that game to finish the year with 8 victories in Coach Spurrier's second year. And that's kind of when you started. I mean, in 2005, it was off to a good start for Coach Spurrier, but the 2006 season, if you actually go back and look through the year, that 8-5 team there that year, Phil, and 2014 were two of the strangest years I can remember, and they were both under Coach Spurrier. Like, you think about how many games that Coach Spurrier won at South Carolina, right? And he won a ton, but he also
plenty, that's for sure.
He also had a lot of heartbreak in there as well. And you talk about the 2006 year, you talk about the Florida game. They lost that year by a touchdown against Tennessee. I think the score was 31-24. They got beat the next week. It was after Tennessee. They got beat by Arkansas by less than a touchdown. And then you go to that 2014 season, if you remember that year at all, and Carolina ended up beating Miami in the bowl game to finish 7-6. And that was the year you talk about field goal games that they beat Florida 23-20. Now that wasn't a field goal. That was Dylan Thompson running into the end zone, but it was a 3-point finish. But the losses that year are what were nuts. Okay. You had that 1-point loss against Missouri. You blew it in the fourth quarter against Kentucky by giving up 21 points in that game. You had the 7-point loss on the road at Auburn. And then you had that heartbreaking, ridiculous loss to Tennessee that year in Columbia. I remember that day well. It was freezing. Actually, I think it snowed the night before. If
yes,
memory
it was
serves
freezing.
me
I was
correct.
at that game too. Yeah, it was so freaking cold.
Yeah.
Cold.
It
Oh,
was
my
it was
goodness.
so cold, and the wind was blowing. Remember the wind? How bad the wind was blowing all
Yes.
morning? It broke tents and all kinds of stuff. And Carolina was up they were up 42-28 with under 2 minutes. Tennessee was driving, and they scored. That Carolina was up 14 points. Tennessee scored with under 2 minutes left. Gamecocks went 3 and out. The Vols scored again, and then they went to overtime, and Tennessee kicked the field goal, and then South Carolina shot themselves in the foot, and Elliott Fry had to come out and kick a 58-yarder, and it was nowhere near, and they got beat 45.
Nowhere near. Yeah.
So okay, so I just highlighted all the losses outside of the Clemson loss, which was a debacle that year. But then you think about the wins. You think about the Florida win. You think about the Georgia win, that 38-35 chaotic scene in Columbia. I mean, you had 2 nice wins there, and then you had that 3-point win over Miami in the bowl game, and you had 4 heartbreaking losses. Had they won 3 of those, they would have won 10 games again that season. It was the strangest year. That was probably more strange than the 2006 season. The strangest year I've ever seen Carolina football, literally week to week, emotionally, that roller coaster, up, down, up, down. It was wild.
Yeah. Yeah, that was just it. Just every time you thought things were turning around, there'd be a letdown. And it'd be heartbreaking too, because it was because you had it. You had it,
Yeah.
And then just it was gone. Ugh.
Every loss that year, except for the Clemson loss, was just oh my gosh, it was wild. Man, lots of you have lots of memories of field goal games here. Harrison said, I remember being at the 2016 Tennessee game as an 11-year-old and watching UT miss that field goal that would have tied it and sent it to overtime. One of my fonder memories at Williams-Brice. That is certainly a good one. Craig said 15 punters named to the Ray Guy watch list for this season, and Kai Kroger's not on the list. That is not true. Craig, they got me too. He is on the list, and we actually even mentioned that a couple of days ago. Phil and I were going over all those that were on the watch list. Yesterday, they tweeted out an updated I guess they added names or something, but they didn't say that. They just said, here are our Ray Guy here's our Ray Guy watch list.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if that was a short list or what, but golly.
Yeah, I had to delete tweets, and I'm not a tweet deleter, and I had to do it but it was ridiculous. That's a terrible job on their social media. I didn't even realize that, and I should have. Doing this for 10 years, you would think that I would know better, and I didn't, so I apologize. I should have actually gone to the website and checked to make sure that graphic matched what was on it. I did not do it. But as soon as I sent that tweet out, I got a text from Wes Mitchell from Gamecock Central, and he said, they got me too, dude. Check it out. And I was like, yeah. So
I left my thoughts up there because it was perennial. I mean, that applies after what happened last year. Because my question was, I know Ray Guy was a Raider, so I was like, or is the Davis family in control of this award because of its mismanagement?
Well, I think still one of the things that I don't understand about the award, though, is not to get off on a topic here because I want to get back into the field goal stuff, but not to get too far off. But how does Mississippi State have 2 punters on it? One of them's never even played a game.
It's kind of odd.
That doesn't even make sense.
It's kind of odd. I don't
He's
think that
never
bodes
kicked.
well for what the Ray Guy people think of Will Rogers. They think he's going to be punting that much.
I mean, they have two punters. There's two punters. Two punters on a watch list. It better be the best punting team in the world. It's amazing. Absolutely amazing. All right. Craig says the 2002 game winner against Ohio State in the hospital room as our son was born. Now that's a moment you'll never forget, certainly.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing about that game, though, it was a 31-28 winner. It was the second consecutive win over the Buckeyes. Gave Coach Holtz in that 2001 South Carolina team their 9th win of the year, Phil. But what a lot of people forget in that game is Carolina was up 28-0.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a runaway.
Down to a kick. Yeah, right.
Yeah. And then they fell asleep at the wheel, and Ohio State picked up steam and tied that thing. And then Daniel Weaver knocked it through as time expired, and Carolina was able to get out of there with another win over the Buckeyes. And shoot, if memory serves me correctly, that's the last time Ohio State and South Carolina have played. So that's been over 21 years. Wow. That's something.
Man. Doesn't seem like it's been that long, but you're right.
If they play this year, that's a good sign for South Carolina.
Yeah, no doubt. It means you made it to more than likely at worst a New Year's Six.
That's right.
At worst. I think you take that in Beamer's third year.
Yeah, if you can beat Ohio State this year, something's right for Carolina. Clint said Josh Brown's field goal in Knoxville was great, even though it wasn't technically a game winner. You're right. But why it was great was because of that aforementioned 2005 season. That was the signature win for Steve Spurrier that year. And I know that they beat Florida at home not long after that in Urban Meyer's first season in the Swamp. But going up there and winning that game was a big deal for Carolina, if y'all remember. And Josh kicked it with a little bit over 2 minutes to go. I haven't actually talked to Josh in a while. We probably need to get him on. He's one of the coolest dudes out there. He's married to lawyer Lisa in Columbia. If anybody knows, here's the spots for lawyer Lisa up there. He's one of the great guys out there, but he'll tell you, he said, I didn't have all the power in my leg like all these guys that have come after him did. Yeah. But when he trotted out there, I've asked him the same question 20 times to make sure he wasn't lying. I said, how'd you feel running out there? He said, I didn't recognize anybody in the stadium. I didn't look up. I didn't hear anything. I just knew I was going to go kick it and we were going to win the game. And he did. So that's pretty cool.
Nice.
Let's see. Jan said it wasn't a field goal, but an extra point by Scott Hagler in the 84 game versus Clemson. That extra point made it 22-21. Good guys to seal the win after a mixed extra point on an offsides call against Clemson. The re-kick was good for the victory. Yeah. If had that not gone through or had that not happened, that 84 year wouldn't have been as magical.
No, that's definitely a letdown there at the end of the year.
Beating the Tigers. Yep, Clint. I was at both those Outback Bowls, and I'll tell you what, for whatever reason, Tampa on January 1st, both those years was cold. I'll never be able to figure out why it's 80 degrees the rest of the year, but those two times it was literally like a high of 50. I mean, it was wild. Kevin said Mizzou in 2013. Yep. That was the Connor Shaw game where he came hobbling back in and brought him back. And of course, Missouri's miss in overtime. I don't know. So that win, Phil, had more meaning to it than the one I'm about to mention. Although the one I'm about to mention will always be memorable, but it had more meaning to it because of what South Carolina was in the hunt for at that point in time, which was to win the East and go to the SEC title game. But they didn't.
Yeah. No.
But they did beat Missouri, who won the East. The 2019 double overtime win in Athens is always going to stand out because you beat the Dogs, and I think they were ranked 4th in the country when that happened, if I'm correct. And when he missed that field goal, you thought, okay, first of all, this is awesome. And second of all, all right, they're going to get it going here. You just went to Athens and they couldn't really do anything with it.
Couldn't keep that momentum up. But yeah, watching the bespectacled Rodrigo Blankenship miss that kick felt so good.
Yeah, it did. Harrison said third in the country. He's right. Yeah, it was third. Xavier said, dude, according to Twitter, you can't be friends with West. They are a competing website. What are you doing, JB? People will just,
That's right. Yeah,
you got to ignore those people. While there's a lot of competition out there, I've known Wes Mitchell a long time, man. He's just a wonderful guy. I think the world of him. He does a wonderful job covering the University of South Carolina. Let's see. Clint said the fall of the defense from 13 to 14 was ridiculous. It was. And that was going into the year. JC said this around here a bunch. Remember that in that offseason? Lorenzo Ward talking about this is probably the best defense we've had. And
yeah.
Johnny Manziel.
We all know how that played out. Yeah.
Yeah. Which I watched that Untold last night, by the way. If you haven't seen it, it's good.
Really good. Oh,
Johnny or not Johnny Manziel, Kenny Trill walked into Williams-Brice Stadium when they opened the SEC network and put that whole notion to bed that defense was going to be better than the previous 3 or 4 under Coach Spurrier, or actually any of those defenses prior to 14 under Coach Spurrier. They were not good. And I'm still not. They didn't have the guys up front, I don't think, if you really look back and think about it. But I'm not convinced they were as bad as the numbers were. I just think they were pretty poorly coached. And I don't mean that disrespectfully, but I just think they were pretty poorly coached. We'll certainly ask David Cloninger about this because he's covered every single one of these games. But I don't know if I've missed any. Are there any that I mean, the 2007 Tennessee game in Knoxville, there were 2 in that game that were hard. I was at that game, and this was, of course, 2 years after. Yeah, it was 2 years after they went up there and won 16-15. They lost this one 27-24 in overtime. Carolina's winning the game. There's 5 seconds left. Tennessee drives down the field. They call timeout with 5 seconds left. You'll remember this now. They got a 48-yarder and they knocked it through to send it to overtime.
Okay.
They had also fumbled earlier and recovered it. Had Carolina just recovered I think it was Emmanuel Cook that ran right by it. Had he just fallen on the ball, South Carolina would have won the game. And then in overtime, Tennessee kicked the field goal, and Ryan, and we were in the end zone, me and Michael Flint. And Ryan had a kick from 50. Oh, it would have been a banger. Maybe 50. I mean, he had the leg. 55 yards, somewhere in there. And he was on the left hash mark, if I am correct. And he kicked it straight as an arrow right by the goalpost. And Carolina lost. It was tough. Clint asks if I'm saying Deke Adams wasn't a good coach. Well, it was a tough year.
It was a tough year.
Deke Adams has gotten a lot of jobs since he's been at South Carolina, man. Just he's been around the block. Xavier said what was crazy is Rodrigo Blankenship is a heck of a kicker. We really just got lucky that game. Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, with everything that happened in that game, I mean, you could make the argument really that DeCarrion Joyner kind of won the game just by not doing anything ridiculous and letting the defense just they played their rear ends off that day. But Blankenship was a heck of a kicker. And I remember after the game, Coach Muschamp said, how he felt for that kid. And, the human side of me says, yeah, I understand that. The competitive side of me says, I don't give a damn because I've seen plenty of kickers that have come along and broke the hearts of Carolina football over the years.
Couldn't have happened to a better kid.
Yeah, tough luck, pal. You got a chance to win a national championship. This group over here doesn't. So don't care. But anyways, all right, it's 11:30. We need to step aside. David Cloninger is due up next. We're teed up by travelingcountryclub.com. It's the coolest club in the Carolinas. If you play golf, you want to be a part of it. Go play in the mountains. The fall is right around the corner. Think about how hot it is outside. Don't you want to play golf in the crisp, cool air in the coming weeks in the mountains? Join Traveling Country Club, and you can do it in places like Waynesville and Mount Mitchell and others. travelingcountryclub.com. We'll be right back.
Hey everybody, this is Mo Copper from Carolina Football. The show is painted garden and black every day by a couple of painters. Go to letmepaintsomething.com to check them out. Go Cox.
10% off for military repeat customers or mention the show. Interior, exterior painting, fencing, cabinet staining, concrete painting, popcorn ceiling removal, and more. 803-522-6832. letmepaintsomething.com.
If you're in the upstate of South Carolina and are in need of residential real estate services, Cindy Bass Searfoss of Caldwell Banker Kane is for you. Ask her about the village at Creekside, all of her listings in my hometown of Spartanburg, South Carolina, right there on Daniel Morgan Avenue, married to a lifelong Gamecock fan. And many of our listeners have already bought homes from her and been 100% satisfied with the detail and care she uses. Cindy Searfoss, 864-414-5271, Caldwell Banker Kane in the upstate for your real estate needs.
Building your dream home is often just that, a dream, and sometimes a nightmare. But at the Barndo Company, they commit to quality and build without sacrifice. Customization, open floor plans, limitless flooring options, maintenance-free and easy installation perks, and affordability are just a few reasons why they've been named one of the best builders in the U.S. Believe in your dreams. Visit thebarndominiumco.com. That's thebarndominiumco.com. The Barndo Company. Gamecock owned, Gamecock operated. The preferred sign partner of Gamecock Athletics is Signorama Columbia, and they should be yours too. A full-service sign company that handles design, production, install, and service, Signorama Columbia has helped to bring to life the perfect vision for so many all across South Carolina. Owned and operated by proud Gamecock alumni, they can handle all types of signage, including interior and exterior, vehicle graphics, and more. Go to Signorama.com and find the West Columbia location, or call them at 803-407-9284. Bring your brand to life with Signorama Columbia, and go Gamecocks.
Welcome back, everybody, inside the Gamecocks, the show. Brought to you in the first hour by Cindy Searfoss and the Caldwell Banker Kane Realty team here in the upstate. Give Cindy a call, 864-414-5271 for all your upstate residential real estate needs. And happy to welcome back David Cloninger of the Post and Courier on the McKellar Enterprises guest line. David, good to see you. How's preseason camp treating you here?
It's hot.
Yeah,
it's hot. I mean, we had open availability the other day, and it was steamy. It was 2:35 in the afternoon, and we also have a next one on Friday at 2:35. And just looking at the heat index, it's supposed to be a balmy 109 out on the practice field. To which I said, there's another event on Friday at 2 o'clock out of Lexington High School. So I'm begging you, Cam Scott, please make there a reason to be there so I can have a worthy excuse to not be at football practice. Please. You can even change your mind later. Just get me out of this.
That's right. Just give us some good news to get us out of the heat.
But man, it was steamy, and apparently, as John Woodall has said on the Big Spur, there were a couple of guys falling out of practice because of things that they didn't do, like hydrate and eat breakfast, and that didn't go over too well with the coaching staff. So hopefully the guys have gotten the message and are getting back out there and doing what they need to do to stay out there these days.
Yeah, that ain't gonna go over well with anybody. If you can't go out and practice because you haven't taken care of your body just from a literal hydration or nutrient standpoint. Woo! Yeah, they'll take care of it for you at a later date when it's probably even hotter and you're running stairs. This is something we've talked a lot about, David, and you've gotten to know Shane for a long time over the years, well back to when he was here under Coach Spurrier. So that's been 16 years ago. Huh. Wow. When he first came here. There is a public side of Shane Beamer, and then there's a private side of Shane Beamer when it comes to managing a football program. And he is a wonderful guy. We all know that. But he's pretty tough when it comes to being a head coach. He's very demanding, and this is how you're going to do it, or you're not going to be around here very long.
Absolutely, Jamie. I think that's what you got to be. I mean, it's not that it's a two sides of every coin thing, but you've seen it some in press conferences to where Shane gets frustrated like all of us do. That sometimes when his team's not playing out the potential, but in terms of just being on the practice field, yeah, he will be that football guy and crawl up inside your behind if you're not doing exactly what you're supposed to do. So that's a good thing to have because you can't be the nice guy all the time. We know that. I mean, you have to have a lot of good cop, bad cop within yourself as one person to say, hey, you do what you do, we're going to get along just fine. But, the minute you step out of line, you're going to be waiting there to pop you back in. So it's what you need for a football team. Obviously, all these guys have bought into it, and not to cast any light on previous regimes because a lot of previous regimes had this problem. You yell too much at them, especially kids these days, they tune out. They're just not going to listen to it anymore. And, these days there's even more reason for them not to listen because, in effect, they can just dangle that, hey, I can leave here at any time and get more money, right? They can dangle that over anybody's head, and you have to make the choice. Are you going to back off or are you going to let them go? I mean, like Pat Narduzzi up at Pitt, he'd be like, go ahead, leave. I don't care. But, others will have to walk that line of saying, I really need this kid to win football games. So there's a whole lot that goes into it. But here at South Carolina, here with Shane Beamer, he's got a very good, line that he walks between, being the guy that we see in public and then being the football coach, and it works. I mean, obviously the record speaks for itself.
All right, David, you mentioned Cam Scott. We're going to ask you about him coming up in just a little bit in this segment here, but sticking on the topic of football, the first scrimmage is upcoming this Saturday. I think, is this the one that's at night? They're at night on Saturday, right?
No, it's at 3:15.
And then next week's at night.
Yeah, the next week is under the lights.
Okay. Do you or have you learned anything about where, if they're beginning to kind of settle in on a group of starters on both sides? Special teams, we know who those guys are for the most part, but on the offensive side and the defensive side of the football, we've seen some rollouts and some notes from guys who've been technically quote unquote first teamers. Of course, there have been injuries to deal with as well, but have outside of the quarterback position and probably to carry on Joyner, anything that maybe has kind of caught your attention as far as who might be making a break for a starting position?
I mean, there's a few guys in there, Jamie. I mean, nothing really outside of what we all expected to see. I mean, and keep in mind, we only get to see a few personnel groupings in a few open periods of practice, and we've only gotten to see 2 practices so far. So what we see may be a very clever subterfuge about what may actually happen. I mean, we all remember the Duke's Mayo Bowl where our open practices, to carry on Joyner wasn't taking any reps at quarterback. I mean, Shane knew damn well what he was doing. It's like, don't do it there while they watching now. That's got to be our secret, So, but, there's nothing there that's really stood out. I mean, there's maybe a couple of guys at backup roles, like notably King Dominion Ford has been getting a lot of reps at backup defensive back, backup safety, and saying like, okay, maybe, that's something to keep an eye on. And then, Juice Wells, as I've illustrated in some of my newsletters the past week, he hasn't been out there with the first, second, and at least the last day, even the third string offense. But that's mostly been, as I've said, look, that's kind of not a payback, but like, hey, your offseason could have been a little bit better, and maybe you need to kind of re-earn your spot here. Now, I don't say that to, cast any boogeyman over the season, because I go and say it. Against North Carolina, Juice Wells is going to start. All right, that's it. I mean, they're not stupid over there. So, no. But obviously, the young man, had some other opportunities this summer that he took advantage of, where it had been better served for the team had he stayed here in Columbia and done some working out. But other than that, there hasn't been a whole lot of like, hey, what's that guy doing out there, or what's this guy doing on the sideline? So there's been a few injuries, notably to Stone Blanton. He's been working off to the side, but that's not something that should keep him out of anything long term.
Okay, on the Juice Wells side of things, you mentioned that, and I've kind of heard some similar things. But to your point, he might be the best wide receiver in the SEC. He's going to be fine. Xavier Legette is a guy who I have at least been told, kind of off the record, DC, that of all the receivers at South Carolina, he's probably the one that had the best summer of everybody. What have you heard about him?
Same, and really it all spawned from that Gator Bowl performance, Jamie. I mean, we know Xavier Legette. I mean, he's been up and down. He's had some really good catches and some really good, like, man, how did you not catch that one? Even in that first play in the Gator Bowl, if you remember, little swing pass screen, he was sitting on the side, quick snap and go, bobbled it and dropped it. And I thought, so you back to this again, are you? And then he caught that amazing touchdown, that the second one he caught, and I thought, did he actually? Oh my Lord! Like, how did he get that? And I think he kind of knew it's like, hey, this is your chance. You've got a cusp of momentum. Stinks that the team didn't win the game, but you've got something going for yourself. So he stayed and really committed himself to the offseason. He's had a great role so far. He's doing well in practices. And right now, there's no reason to think that he, Marion Brown, and Juice won't be your starting three receivers on September 2nd against North Carolina.
The tight end room, of course, as we know, is beginning to get lots and lots of attention. Phil, I'm going to take a quick opportunity here to pat myself on the back. I said 6 months ago that Josh Simon was going to be a name people needed to remember because everybody was focused on Trey Knox, and that's great, and they should be. But Josh Simon can play football, David. When you watch him out there, what do you see in that kid?
I mean, big, aggressive, physical. He's not going to be if he's in line to block you, he's going to win the matchup. And he's a guy that can deliver a block downfield if he's trying to clear out the way for any of his receivers or his running backs. So he can also catch the ball. And, off the field, he's a guy who likes to joke around a good bit. I saw him at Media Day, and he's wearing his jersey. And I swear they must have given him Josh Van's old jersey and then just stitched the nameplate because it looked like he's about to bust out the thing. I'm like, are they going to work with you on that? Because you can't fit your pads under it right now. And he was kind of laughing and joking about it. But, he and Trey have really come in and bought into the system. They're old guys. They know what they have to do to get on the field. They know they're being looked on as leaders because, obviously, fellas, we're sitting here in December and the tight end room is barren. There's just nobody in it. So I was like, well, okay, that's a little bit of a problem. But they refilled with a great bunch of guys, and those two are the big-time leaders. So as I've heard so far, 2 tight end is going to be another mainstay of the playbook, as it was last year and the year before it. And Knox and Simon are probably going to be your 2 starters out there. So we'll see what happens, with all the different formations and everything. But both of those guys have been terrific. And, for your question for Simon specifically, he's a guy that's like, I know I didn't come from Arkansas with the offensive coordinator. That doesn't matter. I can still play football. And you can see it out there that he knows exactly what he's doing. And what really speaks to me, the younger guys, Connor Cox, Reed McKeska, well, maybe not Reed, he's been banged up a little bit, and Nick Elksness, they've been going up to him, and he's been giving them pointers in between reps.
You just mentioned something here. I think that it's a friendly reminder to a lot of folks who, and I'm not saying anybody who follows recruiting should not or should react in any way, shape, or form, but it's just a different game, David. As you just mentioned, eight months ago, everybody was scared to death of what was going to happen with the tight end position. There wasn't even one on the roster in the bowl game except for Nate Adkins. And 8 months later, you can make an argument it might be the strongest position on the team. I'm not saying it is or isn't, but you can make an argument for it. In addition to that, though, we've thrown this stat around here a decent amount, and I'm going to use it again to have a conversation with you. These are numbers going into the year, so obviously they're going to increase much more here, but Mario Anderson to Kerryon Joyner, Juju McDowell, and then the wide receivers / tight ends, Wells, Brown, Legette, Lewis, Knox, and Simon have a combined 35 years of collegiate experience, David. That's a lot. And that's also over 10,000 yards that they have gained collectively and 123 collective touchdowns in their time in college football as well, in addition to 257 games played overall, which is amazing. You've been covering this sport a long time, and you've been covering South Carolina your whole career, basically. I don't remember. I didn't even mention the guy named Spencer Rattler. I'm just talking about the playmakers here. I don't remember a team in Columbia with that much experience. But those that have had a bunch of experience, what do you remember about those teams? And is there anything that we could compare this experience to that?
Well, I mean, there's always no replacement for experience, production, being out there and actually doing it, especially when you've been in the SEC or you've been at USC for a number of years. Obviously, because of COVID, because of the transfer rule, you get a lot of advantages that you wouldn't have had in years past, to where you have the super seniors and you have a lot of guys who've been in for 5-6 years. Jordan Strawn starting his 7th year of college football. I haven't talked to him yet because he's been recovering from that ACL, but I want to go up to him and be like, have you gotten to rent a car yet? I mean, because you're 25 years old now, right? I mean, you're going to be start drawing Social Security pretty soon. But, that's just the advantage that you got out of these things. So, obviously, this team, in terms of that kind of experience, and then last year with the super seniors, they're going to have more than any other previous Carolina team has had. I always think back, though, to probably the 94, 95 team, Brad Scott's first year. That team had a lot of returning experience. You kind of had the last results of Sparky's first recruiting class coming around. Tannehill was a junior. Then you had Brandon Bennett behind him, and said, that's the kind of team that's got a lot of experience, a lot of guys who might not have won much games, but they've been in there in the trenches in the battles. And you thought, but it's a first-year head coach. We'll see what they can do. Well, they end up going 7-5. They beat Georgia, beat Clemson, won the school's first bowl game. So that would probably be the one I think of in terms of just so much experience coming back. You didn't really have that in Spurrier's first year. I guess in the great run between 11, 12, 13, it was probably the 12 team, I'm thinking, that had a lot of that experience coming back. Or maybe it was 11. Let's see. Stephon left after the 2010 season, but probably that 2011 season, they had a bunch coming back. And, they had a great season. They were 11-2, but of course, even as ball coach says today, that Auburn game, that game still aggravates me. It just, there's no way they should have lost that game, but, that's off the topic. But there's been a few, Jamie, that have just brought back so much. But in terms of those raw numbers, snaps, games, yardage, touchdowns. Of course, nobody's going to touch what the Gamecocks have gotten in this year. I mean, 35 years of experience, that's getting into some Brad Johnson, Sherrod Green territory. Like at the Gator Bowl last year, I'm like, you guys have been in for a combined 12 years. 12 years. It's like, that's how the game, shook out for those two young men.
Yeah, I mean, and when you add this year into it, I mean, you're talking about 3, 6, 9. You're talking about 33 years, or I'm sorry, 35, 44 years, and then you add Spencer. I mean, you're talking about 50 years of college football here, and I think that's one of the things kind of rolling it into to carry on that has we know he's pretty much separated himself as RB1, and God forbid something happens, but when they step on the field in Charlotte on September the 2nd, he's going to be the guy that trots out there first at the running back spot. And I think that's one of the reasons, David, why they are feeling better and better about him each day, because he's been in college for 5 years. He's having to adjust to being a running back, but he has been a quarterback, so he knows what those guys do. He's also been a wide receiver, and he understands what those guys do. But he's not having to adjust to the speed of the game. He's used to the speed of the game at this level. Now it's just about learning a new position, and I think that's where again, reading between the lines here with the staff and their comments, a lot of where they see their confidence in this kid, that they think he could actually have a pretty darn good year back there.
Oh, sure. And you can look at it. I mean, we got to speak to him yesterday, as a matter of fact, and we already knew it from the offseason, but he's put on about 15 pounds, looks, just a little more swollen up top, added some upper body strength, which he's going to need as an SEC running back. So I still think that it's probably going to be a running back by committee kind of position, say DeCarrion maybe gets 12 carries and Juju gets 8 and Mario Anderson gets 6, something like that, to just where they don't have to run one guy into the line 30 times. I mean, it's great when you can do that and have production. I always think of Marcus Lattimore versus Georgia as a freshman, but I don't think they're going to have that luxury here. I mean, there's just not enough known there. So, he's ready for it. He knows how to take the contact. It's not like when he was playing Wildcat quarterback, he just kind of stood back there until the hole opened and then took off. I mean, pretty much when he was in, everybody knew it was going to be a running play, and he took off right away. So in that regard, there's really no difference to be between what he's going to be asked to play. But obviously running back will take a little bit more wear and tear on you. You'll be going more into the teeth of the line instead of trying to maybe scramble around it. So we'll see how it goes. But we all know Dakereon Joyner is going to give it everything he can. I mean, you ask him to run through that brick wall, he's going to do it, and he's going to keep doing it. So he's that kind of kid. He's there for the team, and you can only hope for the best for him. The good thing is I spoke to a bunch of his offensive linemen, and they said, like, we've seen the sacrifice that he's given to this team, and we've taken that to heart. So not that we're not going to do it for the other guys, but when DK's back there running the ball, it's going to be like, hey, be on your toes. Make sure this gets done. Make sure he gets out of that pile as clean as possible.
David Cloninger, Post and Courier. You can follow him on Twitter. If you don't, you should, at DCP and C. He's a Rock Hill boy, by the way, for all you Rock Hill guys out there and gals. Spencer Rattler. He how much? I know we've seen very little to this point, but you've seen more than the rest of us. What have you seen? How's he look?
Terrific. I mean, and as he did in practice a lot last year, as he did in a lot of snaps last year. I mean, the thing that dogged his first 10 games last year was the hesitancy and the interceptions. And, you know, we can always go back and cut up interceptions, say, well, that was a tip ball or the receiver ran the wrong route. He's taken ownership and said, like, I didn't do any of that. I looked at the numbers and said, yeah, I threw 10 picks last year and they're all my fault. So if he's saying it, I'm like, oh, okay, great, you know. But it's like an unspoken thing, Jamie. I mean, he knew that he's being looked on to be the leader of this team. He knows that he's got a lot at stake after this season. And as Shane Beamer said, he still does have another year of college if he wants it. But he knows, and that's right. A lot of the receivers and Trey Knox went out to Phoenix with him over the offseason to work. That's why he was helping to lead the off-the-field, non-coach supervised OTAs to get out and just throw the ball around with his receivers. And he's just showing command out there. He feels comfortable, confident. He's just got to go out there and do it during the game. And to me, I think it's a huge benefit for him personally to play a team like North Carolina that doesn't have a renowned defense. I mean, I haven't read up a lot on them, but all I know is like, well, they lost a couple of guys and their defense was trash last year. It was absolutely trash. So that's got to open you up and make you feel really good as a quarterback. And, of course, it's going to be a case of, all right, well, you may have to get in a shootout here and win it. But Spencer Rattler's been in those before and done a fine job. I mean, look at the Tennessee game, right? Yeah. So he's looked great. He's looked terrific. And it's just going to be a case of like, all right, got to go out there and do it during the game.
I tell you what, man, you got to be encouraged. If you heard Coach Loggins at the Birdies with Beamer golf event I think it was last week or the week before, whenever that was, a couple weeks ago, he said his job with Spencer Rattler is to get him there and then let him go. Mm-hmm. He's, basically is what he said. Look, I want to get him to where he needs to be, and once he's clicking and he's hot, let him stay hot. Let him go play football. And last year, seemingly when they decided that was going to be the new plan with him, simplify and let him do the things he's good at doing, I don't know. Somebody could probably find me a better quarterback in the country at that point in time. Maybe Bryce Young. I don't know. But he was up there those last couple of games of the season, and we'll see what happens from there. You mentioned UNC. I did see your retweet earlier yesterday. The news broke that their top wideout, Tez Walker, was ruled ineligible for 2023, but it looks like the Tar Heels have already appealed and they feel confident about it.
And you never know. I mean, that could just be bluster, but because I've heard it on both sides. I mean, when talking about Jordan Strawn's appeal this year, the coach was like, oh, yeah, we feel really, really, really good about that. I'm like, oh, okay. And then it gets approved. But then I also heard it's like, well, we feel pretty good about Dante Miller winning another year of eligibility, and he didn't. So I've seen both sides of it. I know how it can go. But to me, what the problem seems to be that UNC will be appealing is that, look, he applied under the rules that said he was going to be eligible. And he was in here 2 days before you guys changed the rule. That's not his fault. So I'm sure this might just be a case of like, hey, you just got to resubmit it and everything will be fine. But you never know with the NCAA. I mean, and it could be that somebody in the NCAA is also like, North Carolina, huh? I think we've done them enough favors. Maybe we'll just, take this for ourselves. And you shouldn't look at it like that, but it comes into play. Human nature is going to come into play because somebody's going to be holding a grudge. So we'll see what happens. Obviously, that's beneficial for the Gamecocks. It's an awful blow for that young man, especially as he's illustrated his reasons for why he wanted to come back, because his grandmother is not in great health and she is in driving distance to be able to come see him play if he is to play at UNC. So we'll see how it goes. There's a long time between now and September 2nd. I'm hoping that the NCAA will do the right thing. But, of course, to me, this kind of resembles the Mike Grosso situation. Like, hey, South Carolina had him in school and played by the rules, and he wasn't on scholarship, but he could play this year. Because you didn't ever said he couldn't play. You said he couldn't be on scholarship. And they're like, oh, well, we changed our mind. Now he can't play. What's the rule? So if he got in under the old rule and then they changed the rule, that's not his fault. But you never know how these things go. I mean, the NCAA has been known to dock you if you've got one comma out of place in your appeal. So we'll see what happens. But me personally, just kind of reading the tea leaves and saying South Carolina's never this lucky. I mean, come on now. I mean, remember Jarvis Moss, for crying out loud?
Exactly.
I expect to see Tez Walker on the field, on September 2nd.
That's the second Jarvis Moss reference on today's episode.
This is a bad show, man.
I know. Yeah, that's right.
I was standing in the end zone waiting for that ball to come into the uprights above my head. I was like, man, this is going to be a great lead to a story. And I'm like, been here before.
Yeah,
that was the third kick that was blocked that game.
Oh, I remember. I was there.
That was just still to this day. Gosh, you talk about deflating moments in Gamecock football history. That one is right up there towards the top. On the court, though, you already mentioned it. Cam Scott is expected to make a decision Friday afternoon about his future.
Yeah, 2:00.
What are you hearing?
Right now, it's down to 3 that I've heard: South Carolina, Alabama, and Texas. And I don't have a leader or I'm going to pick this or I feel good about it. It's just those 3. And I think that right now, Cam is in the process of calling his other finalists. I think he named 6 at the outset and saying, hey, thanks, but I'm not coming. So I think South Carolina will be one of those 3 that he doesn't call. But we'll have to see what happens on Friday afternoon because, again, I'm not saying this to be the gloomy Gus or everything because everything I've heard says it's really a pull for that young man to stay home and to help build this program. But, of course, there are other considerations, and you never know how this thing's going to go. Now, I'm never going to ruin a young man or young lady's moment, even when I've known that they're coming. I've never done that. What I have done is exist to my own system of, like, texting the powers that be or the coaches the day before, the day of the announcement and say, hey, as a South Carolina beat writer, do I need to be there? And they'll tell me yes or no. And if I'm there, then that means I've been given info that says I should have been there, right? Well, that's worked a lot. It's worked a whole lot. But there was also the time, hey, man, do you think I need to be at the ceremony? Yeah, you need to go. Okay. Hey, Seventh Woods, what's with that North Carolina cap? What are you doing? What are you doing? Is this a joke? You never know. You never know. And, of course, as I found out later, that changed the literal hour before he made the announcement. The hour before.
The Seventh Woods announcement? Well, he ended up.
I mean, it was done, and apparently the young man woke up. He always loved UNC. That was his childhood dream. And he woke up that morning and was like, I just really want to go to UNC. I know what I told USC. I know there's the pull of that. I know what I've said, but I really want to go to UNC. Like I said, I'm sitting there going, ready to hit send on the story, right? Ready to post it right away. All of a sudden, I'm like, are you going to pull a Savell here and doff that cap, put on another one? What's going on here? I'm just looking at him, and he keeps wearing it and shaking hands. I thought, what did – and, of course, I'm texting, hey, what happened? And I'm getting back a lot of profanity-riddled texts. So it's like, But like I said, there's that one time. It's always the exception. So we'll see. But what's today? Wednesday at 12 o'clock. I'll tell you, I'm planning to be there on Friday at 2. There's 48 hours where that might change, but we'll see.
So somebody strap an air tag onto Cloninger, and we'll figure out where he is.
You know how?
And again, like I mentioned before, it may be that I'm like, well, let's just say I'm not saying this why. I'm just saying, like, say I'm like, hey, I don't think you need to be there. I'll be like, yeah, but it's 109 at football practice. So
that's true. There is the other factor there. Yeah.
He said he needed to be in Lexington. He didn't say he needed to be at Cam Scott's announcement. He might be going to Zesto, or God only knows where he ends up.
Man, I got a Zesto right around the corner, but
you know what's going to happen. You know how it works in December, DC. Everybody starts tracking airplanes for college football. Someone's going to be tailing you Friday a.m. to see where you're headed.
Yeah.
So
I'll go ahead down to Dick Dyer and see if I can get the same deal Spencer got on that new Mercedes tank he's driving. Be like, yeah, man, just loan it out to me for an hour. I'm not going to pull any Jimmy Foster stuff and drive off, out of the car.
Right.
Just a really long test drive.
Do you think, just out of curiosity here, and we're due for a break, but Phil, we're okay today. Do you think, just out of curiosity, had Seventh Woods? Can't believe we're even talking about this. You never know what's going to happen around here. Had Seventh Woods committed to South Carolina out of high school and played his entire career in Columbia, how different do you think it would be from going up there and having to compete with the guys he had to compete with to get some floor time?
I mean, seventh play point guard, right? So South Carolina had a pretty good point guard at the time in PJ Dozier. And it should be noted that without Seventh, South Carolina got to the Final Four. Now, Seventh was also there, and he got himself a nice shiny ring. So who knows, man? It's always fun to kind of think about that. But, just looking at the way his career tracked, he was a really good player and a great player in high school. And he had gotten a lot of this hype from eighth grade dunk contests or dunk mixtapes.
Mm-hmm.
Was his game really that good? Now, he was pretty good at North Carolina before he got hurt. There was some of that, but they weren't going to let him be the show. It was going to have to be a very team-motivated thing because look at the team that they had around him. And obviously, was it Marcus Page was their point guard at that point? I think that was it. A really good player. So who knows? I mean, you look at it and say, well, PJ left and maybe he could have replaced PJ. Yeah, maybe, but who knows? I mean, the fact is that, Seventh went to UNC and didn't have the career he wanted to have. Who knows if they would have given him the ball more here? It's hard to think that they would have, considering that PJ was in front of him. But maybe that second year, third year, fourth year, it would have turned out different. But I couldn't say for sure. All I know is that I saw a really good high school player that just didn't make it in college for whatever reason, and he did have some really serious medical issues. I mean, once he got here, he had some kind of problem. I believe it was with his kidneys, something like that, where he was in the hospital for a while. So who knows? But that's long in the past, and
yeah,
I mean we can sit here and talk all that day, and before too long we'll get to Coach Morrison hadn't told him in '84 that they were going to be in the Orange Bowl no matter what. We'll see what happens there. Okay.
It's amazing that, and we'll let you run on that note, bud. It's amazing. Seventh Woods, 3 years in North Carolina, 1 at South Carolina, and a lot of people don't even realize this. He actually finished his career at Morgan State, where he averaged under 5 points per game in his final year of college basketball. Crazy stuff. All right, what will we be looking for? Don't give me the John Whittle answer. I asked him the other day, hey, what are we going to be looking for on the Big Spur over the next few days? Football. Oh, okay. Thanks, John. So it's just like I asked him, what we asked him, Phil? Hey, John, you'll be at practice. What are you going to be watching? Probably stretching. Oh, stretching. All right.
He's not wrong. He is
right. Yeah.
Just to the point. What's on the docket for the Post and Courier off of your desk over the next few days?
Well, there's a story up right now on our website about the other freshman receiver that's really standing out at South Carolina football practice, not the one you're thinking of. Mm-hmm. Obviously, it was a kind of an invested interest for myself, but hey, I didn't plan to do it. I'm just going by what the coaches have told me. So there's that, and then there'll be a couple of stories this weekend on some new additions to the Gamecocks team. And also, not necessarily a what if story, but more of an explanatory story of one of the biggest moments from last season and how it happened the way it happened. So just keep an eye out.
Can you give us a hint?
Let's see. Let me think of a good one. It has to do with the final 2 games of the regular season. Let's just say that.
Oh.
And, there'll be some other things. Shane Beamer's going to wrap up the scrimmage on Saturday for us. And, of course, we'll report what he says, but it's hard to know exactly what went on since we don't get to watch it. Yep. Hopefully I'll be able to hit some people up and they'll be able to tell me, hey, so-and-so looked good. And hopefully I won't get a, hey, so-and-so got hurt. Well, those are the worst kinds of things to happen on a Saturday afternoon. But then, just wrapping up another week of practice and getting into it. And then on Monday, the AP Top 25 comes out. I knew that they weren't going to be in the coaches' top 25, that they were going to be just outside of it. I've been getting mixed results on the AP saying like, well, I voted for them, and some others, I didn't. So I'm not a voter. So, it's not up to me. But AP Top 25, which is the one that we run in the paper, we'll see if they're kind of the Gamecocks. And if they're not ranked, they're going to be real close to being ranked. So we'll see how it goes.
My gut tells me they squeeze in there 24 or 25 to make this a top 25 matchup.
And again, Iowa wasn't ranked either. I just don't see how Iowa got enough votes to be 26 when they're averaging 13 points a game.
It blew my mind too, and I kept getting McNamara. I was like, I don't see
what.
It's still Ferentz.
The preseason gets goofier and goofier every year, man, with some of the stuff.
It's always nice to have a little number beside your name, but fellas, outside of last year, when they played Notre Dame and then ended in the final poll. You remember the last time South Carolina was ranked before that?
2018.
I should say I am talking about the AP poll coming in, not the coaches.
coming into the year, 2014.
Or actually, any time before a game.
Was it 2014? Yeah. A&M.
The infamous Kenny Chesney game.
Thanks, Kenny. Appreciate that.
Ain't nothing much going right since that guy showed up.
Didn't they? I thought they cracked the top 25 after one of their wins in 2017. Am I wrong about that? Or 2016? Didn't they crack it after they beat Tennessee in 2016? Did they not?
No, they beat a ranked Tennessee team that everybody called. Because Tennessee had been ranked the week before, and they got smoked. And then they were coming into that game, and I was like, I think pretty much everybody I knew said South Carolina will win that game, including me. So I was like, Tennessee's not good. And that was Jake's third start? I think second. Yeah. And he beat him. But, just at least according to the media guide. Now, AP poll, not USA Today coaches poll. It was the last time they were ranked before the Notre Dame game and then ending the season last year was 14.
Yeah, well, that ended quickly.
The season ranked, I think. I'm not sure if they actually they didn't fall out, but then they won 3 or 4 straight and then played Missouri during the week Chesney came in, game day.
Yep.
To which getting game day in Charlotte.
They were number 9 in the preseason poll, I think, that year. Going into that game.
I am dearly hoping, and I don't know who they're going to pick, but when they do the guest picker, this is a neutral site, so I don't know, if they'll lean on one side.
We've already figured this out. They need
I don't know if they got room, but
they need to do Darius and Eric Church. Chief is a North Carolina guy, and we all know about Darius. Darius
has been on there before. And I know that they don't like to do repeats.
Well, they need to get over it. Because we've seen
picking Kenny Chesney was a curse on this team that rivals, Pitchfork Ben back in the day. But I will say this: my friend Michael Haney, who's just a great guy and a great songwriter and a great singer in Nashville. Michael had a great suggestion if they do pick a South Carolina quote unquote representative for the game day picker. Danny McBride. Yes. Kenny Effin Powers. The guy lives in Charleston.
Right. He lives on the island.
In Charleston. It's
right.
Who wouldn't be more perfect? I'm like, finally, they're going to get somebody that's better than when Clemson had Bill Murray.
Yeah.
Thing here, and I said, hold on a second. Clemson gets Bill Murray, and South Carolina had to get Kenny Chesney. Really?
Yeah.
It's a topic I've screamed myself hoarse about. But as I said, well, it's not our policy to pick somebody connected to the school. I'm like, yet you've pretty much always done that.
Right. Yeah.
Pretty much always.
Somehow.
Well, especially for the schools
I will
that
say,
mattered.
Clemson got Bill Murray that year, but they had 2 game days that year. They hosted 2. And the other one was Eric Stonestreet. Eric Stonestreet's a funny guy. He's a very talented actor, but he's a Kansas State guy. That's where he went. That's who he loves. I'm like, why's this guy at Clemson? That don't make any sense. But still, I was like, well, they're managed to. And then, Kenny showed up here. I'm like,
Taylor Swift.
13-point lead, 6 minutes to play. You lost by a point.
I'm trying to think of famous folks that live in Charlotte too. Would be easy for them, but
does Nature Boy still live? He's got to live in Charlotte, right? Flair, he's got it.
That'd be a great one.
Yeah, well, he was a quote Gamecock fan when Steve was here. He always called for those sideline passes. He's walking around.
I'm sure Dale Earnhardt Jr. lives up there, right? I mean, didn't he in Concord somewhere?
He still pulls for Carolina.
But then I don't know how they're going to pick it. Like, if you're only doing one at a neutral site, what do you do? Because to me, and I doubt he would do it, but I'd say Michael Jordan ain't doing anything since he just sold the Hornets. Why don't you go pick him? He lives right up there.
He's got nothing going on.
Seriously, why not? I mean, as a UN, and so it ties in nicely with the UNC thing, but I doubt MJ would be like, yeah, okay, I'm going to waste my time by walking down there to do that.
Yeah, I want to go sit in the heat and do that.
Yeah, I'm going to stay with they need to go with Darius and Chief and let them battle because Darius has a new album coming out. Eric's touring. It's new. The day before, though, on the 1st, that Friday morning, Darius is performing on the Today Show in New York.
Okay.
So he could get back fast enough. See, because he's promoting his new album. That's a good time for him.
There'll be a lot of great folks to get there. It's just I don't know how they're going to do it. And especially with, I guess, the revamped show now without David Pollock. I mean,
that was a terrible move.
It's awful. And
what are they doing?
Who are they going to have? I mean, Corso and is it Reese Davis and still Herbie? Or did Herbie leave?
No, he's still there.
I've lost track with all the
he's still there. Desmond's still there. I don't mean this disrespectfully, but they have a couple of people that they put on there over the last couple of years, and I don't know why. They're not any good. From the reporting standpoint, they literally bring nothing to the table. Why they let David Pollock off of that thing is he was the best one they had, but
of course, everybody at USC would look at David Pollock and going,
"No, I know." Yeah, I was in that end zone when that happened. I'll never forget that moment.
He couldn't have made that play again if he tried it 1,000 times.
No,
but he did it that time.
Yeah,
and still. If Andrew Pinnock catches that pitch, it's just like, that was a great play, but you lost.
That's right. That's exactly right. Exactly. Yeah.
And don't bring that up around Corey Jenkins because he will hurt you. I know from experience. He's gotten a little better with it. Like now when friends text him, hey, that game came on replay. He's like, great. Did we win this time?
Yeah. They still show that game. Who's showing that thing?
I mean, that play. That play was what got him the Butkus and the Lombardi and all the big awards that he got. And I think he would have made a really good pro linebacker, David Pollock, but he got a neck
neck problem. Yeah.
So
great guy. We'll let you run on that note. Can't wait. We can't wait for some of these stories, and especially the one you just teased. And look forward to reading about Elijah Caldwell, who played for my former offensive coordinator at Wando and pitching coach, one of the quietly funniest dudes alive, Paige Wofford at Northwestern. He will sneak up on you in a hurry. You don't realize it. So thanks, man. We look forward to getting you back in. Stay cool, and we'll be tracking your vehicle on Friday morning.
No worries, guys. Hopefully I'm checking in with you from Lexington High School on Friday afternoon. Take care.
That'd be good.
Right.
See you. There you go, David Cloninger with the Post and Courier. We are way late for a break, so we're going to do that. It's not the top of the hour, but we're going to treat it that way. Hang tight. Inside the Gamecocks, the show powered by Electric Bikes of Charleston, part of the Chief Sports Network. We'll be right back. Golfers and wannabe golfers, former Gamecock golfer Meredith Taylor is now a full-time golf instructor in the Midlands of South Carolina. In-person golf lessons are held at the Country Club of Lexington. Half-hour, hour, on course 9 or 18 holes. And if you're outside of South Carolina, Meredith conducts virtual lessons. Just send in your golf swing for analysis. Gift cards are available for in-person 1-hour lessons. Connect on Twitter at Mayor Taylor and find her online at McKellarEnterprises.org. Her email is on the website. Schedule your next lesson today with Meredith Taylor, former Gamecock golfer. Electric Bikes of Charleston offers the most fun you'll ever have on two wheels. Magnum, Velotric, Aventon bikes, and more. And they sell to consumers all across the state and offer outstanding warranties and service after the sale. 5 levels of pedal assist plus a throttle help you handle the southern heat better, but still get great exercise. Bikes are available all ages and sizes. ElectricBikesCharleston.com or stop into their store in Mount Pleasant. Electric Bikes of Charleston, powering inside the Gamecocks, the show.
Bikes are Charleston! Electric Bikes of Charleston! Electric Bikes of Charleston! Electric Bikes of Charleston! Bikes of Charleston!
Just as your State Farm agent combines good neighbor service with surprisingly great rates, you can combine your home, auto, life, or small business insurance with Tony Pope State Farm Insurance today. And guess what you'll get? That's right, even more good neighbor service with surprisingly great rates. In fact, Tony Pope State Farm is your go-to agent anywhere in South Carolina, North Carolina, or Georgia for the service you deserve at the price you want. So try combining your home, life, auto, and or small business insurance today. Tony Pope State Farm has been in business for more than 30 years and can handle anything you need in the tri-state area. Once again, Tony Pope State Farm will help you mix and match perfectly. Call 843-851-2222 or visit TonyPope.com today. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
Nana's Porch, nanasporch.com. At Nana's Porch, they cater weddings, parties, and all kinds of special events. Their meals are served buffet style. In seconds, they're encouraged. Plus, they can bring their mobile food unit to bring on-site and serve your guests as a unique alternative for your catering needs. Inquire about rentals as well. nanasporch.com. Find them on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. 336-259-7550.
If you're on Medicare currently or approaching eligibility, it's time to enroll in a Medicare plan that meets your needs. Palmetto Medicare is here to help you through the process. Palmetto Medicare's owner, Brian Spencer, and his team of experts are here to assist you. Learn about the benefits and enroll in a plan that will cover as many of your medical costs as possible. Some of the advantages of Medicare health plans may include a variety of plan choices, increased benefits, lower premiums, and more. Give Palmetto Medicare a call to discuss your insurance and help get the exact coverage for your needs today.
Williams Bryce looking better and better. Welcome back inside the Gamecocks, everybody. About 20 minutes after 12, we begin the second hour. Only fitting, but the conversation with David Cloninger is so good, you just let it go until it, finally resolves itself.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to what he's got coming up, and he kind of teased it, so we know it's going to be some type of backstory of the final couple of games of the 2022 season. We all remember those games well, Tennessee and Clemson for South Carolina. So if you are not a subscriber to the Post and Courier, you probably might maybe want to be. Head to the postandcourier.com to do so. You can download their app as well. You know what? I miss the old days, Phil. I miss the old days of that newspaper landing on the driveway and you walk down and get it. And I'm kind of an old soul with some stuff. I really am. I mean, I'm not even 40 yet, so I'm young. And but when I was a kid, I used to love to read the newspaper, specifically the sports section.
Oh, yeah.
And that's never going to happen again. I don't think. You know what? Everything always kind of comes back, so maybe one day it will, but not in the near future. But I do miss that. That was those are good times.
Do they not do a paper copy anymore, or you just subscribe online?
No, they do, but
yeah,
it's not.
I wonder how much more it is than their online subscriptions.
I don't
know. You got to figure. I mean, the fewer number they print, the more pricey they're going to be. There's a fine line between, how much you're going to pay for the paper copy and just go online to read it on your phone.
Right. Yeah. I don't know, man. But we don't know, we'll never get those days back, that's for sure. But I mean, I love the Post and Courier. David is excellent at what he does. He's so good at covering South Carolina. So glad I have the app, that's for sure. Hey, listen up and listen closely. If you or someone you know is looking for work, a couple of painters is hiring, and that should tell you something. They're doing pretty darn good. They are slammed busy, and they paint all over Georgia and all over the state of South Carolina. You gotta be able to travel, of course, but you can call Tristan, and he's the owner. Tristan Still, wonderful, wonderful man. We're proud to partner with them, and of course, I'm sitting here accidentally FaceTiming him, so I apologize to that, Tristan. Don't answer that. I don't even know how I just did that. What just happened? If you or someone you know is looking for work, a couple of painters, as I just mentioned, they are hiring. The phone number is 803-522-6832. 803-522-6832. If you would like to join their team, if you've got some young guys, whether they're teenagers or younger 20s or whatever it is, or you're an established, experienced painter, if you don't have any experience but are interested in doing it, they'll train you on how to do it. So make sure you call that number and make sure that you spread the news. If you know someone looking for work, 803-522-6832. A couple of painters, and we're proud that they paint our show, Garnet and Black, every day as well. Bobby says he's here in Savannah. He'll paint some stuff. Well, you'll have to call Kristen. I'm not sure if Tristan. I'm not sure if they have anything in Savannah or not, but y'all can certainly work that out. Jimmy said that's like the SEC network. The ACC network is better than the SEC network. Is it? I don't watch a ton of the ACC network. I like the SEC network. I think they've done a fantastic job. I guess my question would be why do you say that, Jimmy? What in your mind makes the ACC's network better than that of the SEC? I'm just curious. Everybody has their own opinions, and that's fine. But I enjoy the SEC network, especially in season. Their SEC Nation, I think, is good, Phil. And Laura Rutledge is unbelievable as a host. She's fantastic. The rest of those guys are pretty good. Feinbaum, of course, is pretty goofy, but the show overall is good. But I'll tell you what I love about the SEC network. It's after the ball games. Like if I'm not in Columbia, so I'm not traveling, or if I am, when I'm going, staying at a friend's or a hotel or whatever it is, and then weekends when I'm home, being able to watch the SEC Network at night for the recap, that hour-long show, I love that show. And that's
my favorite post game or post, day, end of the football day show is the SEC one. What do they call it?
In SEC Inside or SEC Inside, right? Isn't that it?
Is this the one with Dari Noka and
or SEC Recap or whatever they call it?
Something, yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's something like that, but it's good. And it used to be like that on ESPN, the late night show that would recap all the games. I mean, that was still pretty good too, but the SEC one, in my opinion, is a lot better.
Mm-hmm.
But I like the SEC Network. I think they do a good job. And if you ever want to laugh, cut on Feinbaum in the afternoon. I mean, the thing with that though, and every show, there's people out there who don't like our show, Phil. And I get it.
Yeah.
Everybody has their own cup of tea. I understand it. I understand media.
Wait, what?
It's okay. Yeah. It's all right.
All right.
But I don't I like the Feinbaum show. So I can only listen to so much of the same type of caller too. You know what I mean?
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Like
that's one of the reasons, why we don't have callers on here.
Yeah, because guys like Craig would be calling in, talking about poisoning his neighbors, oak trees, and then our boy Clint here, he'd be calling in trying to fight, 76, and Quantrell would challenge someone to a wrestling match somewhere, and
take him on anywhere, Paul.
Blind squirrel would get worn out every time he calls because we know he's a Georgia guy.
Yeah, right.
Yes, I'm just kidding. Lance would be calling in housed every time.
Yeah, that's right. Lance probably be one of my favorite callers.
We wouldn't understand half of half of what he's trying to say. So I don't know. Xavier said we're making a pretty good case for calls. Look, we've discussed it, and it's not totally off the table. We might do that one day, but right now is probably not the time for that. Craig, by the way, speaking of Craig, today is his 364th day being 49 years old. Tomorrow he will be 50. So, Phil, let's throw Craig a birthday party tomorrow.
Yeah.
Okay.
I need to make a special graphic for you there, Krieger.
Yeah.
Fun.
We'll throw you a birthday party tomorrow.
Sing
Craig.
a song.
Let's see. Who do we have tomorrow? We got Mike for an hour, and we got Chris tomorrow. So we'll make sure that we party with you, man. That's
Chris
pretty
and
awesome.
Perry. We have plenty of friends coming by tomorrow, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, and Perry Orth starts tomorrow as well.
Mm-hmm.
Perry will be leading off the program tomorrow, so that should be a lot of fun. All right. Greg Sankey yesterday spoke with Paul Feinbaum, speaking of which, about the college football playoff and its future. And essentially, he has said that they probably need to go back and take a look at this thing. And he's probably right, too, because you're always at this point in time now, you're always going to have four. Like the way that it's set up is you have 6 at large and then the 6 highest ranked conference champions. So the SEC and the Big Ten, of course, but more than likely, of course, the ACC too, with as it stands right now, Florida State and Clemson. And then I guess more than likely the Big 12, Phil, right? And then after that, what do you have? Because you have the Pac-4. That's not even a conference.
So, yeah, you can't even really.
No, you don't. I mean,
even if they all played each other twice, that's still only 6 conference games.
Yeah, I mean, those guys, like, it's. I mean, if the Pac-12 survives, clearly they're bringing teams in from God only knows where. The Sun Belt or the the Mountain West. Maybe they merge Conference USA, the AAC. Who knows? Who knows what happens? But okay, so
they need to just do what I thought they should have done in the damn first place, is just take the top 12 teams. Why do we have to throw a bone to these conferences? Even before it was, now we've got 3 super conferences and nobody left, it didn't make any sense to me whatsoever. If you're trying to figure out what the best damn football team is, you put the 12 best damn football teams against each other and then let them play it out.
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel. I mean, look, I think if you stay with the 12-team model, because they're gonna, when they come back and talk about this, they might tell people on the camera or through the microphone that they're not planning or they're not engaged in any conversations to change it from a 12-team model. I'm going to find that really difficult to believe when they say that. Really difficult to believe, like unbelievably difficult to believe. I'm not saying that they're not going to land on 12 teams. And I'm not saying, or that they're not going to stay with 12, but Phil, there is going to be when they reopen the conversation, they're going to look back at every single option. And if Greg Sankey has to do anything with it, they will deeply look at every option. They'll look at maybe reverting back to an 18 playoff. They'll look at maybe staying put at a 14 playoff. And I don't think that's going to fly. And then they'll look probably at going even higher than that to a 16-team model. So here's where my issue with a lot of this is. Okay, let's just take, we already know what the SEC looks like, and we know what it's going to look like when you add Oklahoma and Texas. It's going to be and the Big Ten combined. It's going to be very difficult for people to understand how the six highest ranked conference champions, and let's say that one of those conference champions comes from the American, and let's say that is Tulane because they had a great year last year. But how they're going to get a berth and an auto bid in this thing when the 4th and 5th teams from the SEC and the Big Ten are sitting there at 9-3. And the losses that they have are, let's just say it's the SEC, and let's say that it is, I don't know, Texas. And Texas has losses on the road in the Swamp, and Florida's a top 10 team, and they've got a loss on the road in Tennessee, and Tennessee's a top 15 team, and they were upset not even upset. They were beat at home by Alabama, who's number 2 in the country. And outside of that, they're unscathed, and their strength of schedule is 3 or whatever it is. But based on record, they are the 5th best team in the SEC, and they're sitting here looking at a team in Tulane who went 11-1, 12-1, including a conference championship, who they would wipe the floor with. So, so what's going to, we all look, because the moving ball in all of this, the rover, if you will, is the committee. The committee is the one who will pick the 6 at-large. Some of those at-large teams are going to be shoe-ins. We know that. A lot of them probably will be. But there will be 1 or 2 that are fussed and discussed about at the end, and then there's going to be 1 or 2 based on what's happening right now with the conference realignment. There's going to be 1 or 2 conference champions that are going to get into this thing and not deserve to be there. So they'll deserve to be there based on the rules, but they won't deserve to be there based on the 12 teams of football. All right, so let's stop that there. Let's go to the NFL. The best teams in the NFL are not in the postseason every year, and we know that. Okay, it's not always every single best team. That's the third best team in the AFC South might be better than the team that won the NFC North.
Yeah.
Or what was it last year? The NFC South, or whoever it was that finished under 500. But they won their division.
The NFC South, I think everybody, yeah.
Right.
And if you don't have the top 3, if you don't have a top 3 record in the entire conference, you don't make it in. So yeah, teams get left out all the time.
There is no perfect scenario in all of this. There's none. Okay, so you have to find the one that is best to protect the sport. And I think personally that there are 10 leagues right now, right? And what I'm about to say is going to sound a little bit
Power 5, Group of 5. Yeah, I mean,
yeah, there's still technically 10 leagues. It might be 9 if the Pac-12 doesn't survive. But what I'm about to say is going to sound a little bit off, and I understand that. I'm just saying, if you're going to reward champions, you need to go ahead and reward all the champions and just back this thing up to 16 teams, put the 10 conference champions in there, and then put 6 at-large teams in on top of that. If you only have 9 conference champions because the Pac-12 falls apart, then that's going to be a number that changes. So you'll have 9 conference champions in there. You'll have 7 at-large teams, and then you'll reseed them for the playoff, and then bam, you go. All right, if that's what you really want to do. And now I get it. I know I'm not saying that I'm going to disagree with anybody that's going to fight that narrative. I understand what you're getting at. Well, there's no reason that the winner of the MAC should be in there. Let's say that, I don't know, come up with somebody. The Buffalo Bulls, not Bills, Bulls go 11-2. Duh. Yeah, they ain't walking in and beating Ohio State or Alabama or I know that. I get it. I'm just saying, if we're at a point where it's about rewarding conference champions, then just reward all the conference champions and put the at-larges in there. That's not a perfect system, but you are rewarding conference champions, and you're also making sure you get the best teams in the sport in there, because I know, like Xavier just said a minute ago, and he's not the only one that thinks this, it shouldn't be 12 teams in the first place. It should be the 6 best teams. If there are only 5 or 6 teams every year that can win it, well, guess what? They're going to be amongst those 16 teams anyways. Okay? So let them get in there and play. If it's not about that, if it's not about rewarding conference championships, Phil, then just put the best 12 teams in there. Period.
But that's what, yeah. Because I was always of the opinion it should expand, but maybe to 6 or 8. I thought 12 was a little bit of a reach, and I thought it was just giving lip service to the conference models themselves. I mean, it was like there are years when you don't have a powerhouse Clemson team or some heavy hitting ACC team that's going to get a bye.
Yeah.
It just doesn't make any sense. Or, even this year you could have, like, I don't know, say Oregon pulls a couple of upsets out of the Pac-12 and plays a weaker schedule and then gets in and would have, a bye. It just, I don't know why you're rewarding the 4 top conference champions and not, and then have to hash it out. But I mean, obviously you're going to have to change. Something's going to have to change. If you are going to leave it at 12, 16, I think you could pull off 16, but you're going to have to start playing earlier in December on that first round.
And you're going to have to create some sort of league requirement. How many, if it's just rewarding all league champions, okay, well, what's to say then the Pac-4 says, oh, great, we'll say right here. You know what? We don't need 4 more teams. We get a guaranteed berth every year. So, no, you can't do that. Like, you have to make sure that there's some sort of threshold that says you have to have at least, 8 teams, 10 teams in your league or something like that. Beyond that, though, Phil, there's a couple of other things that are going to need to be discussed. We need to hit a quick timeout. When we get back, we'll get into that as well. Hang tight. Inside the Gamecocks, the show, built by the Barndo Co. and painted garnet and black by a couple of painters. We'll be right back. The preferred sign partner of Gamecock Athletics is Signorama Columbia, and they should be yours too. A full-service sign company that handles design, production, install, and service, Signorama Columbia has helped to bring to life the perfect vision for so many all across South Carolina. Owned and operated by proud Gamecock alumni, they can handle all types of signage, including interior and exterior, vehicle graphics, and more. Go to Signorama.com and find the West Columbia location, or call them at 803-407-9284. Bring your brand to life with Signorama Columbia, and go Gamecocks.
Charleston Fitness Equipment is keeping South Carolina in shape. Clients have come from all over the Palmetto State to find that one piece of equipment that they enjoy that keeps them looking and feeling good. Whether it's a home rower, treadmill, elliptical, free weights, a home gym, or something else, Charleston Fitness Equipment keeps the mirror smiling back at you. Get in shape like the Gamecocks do. Visit charlestonfitnessequipment.com. Gamecock owned and operated and proud partners of Inside the Gamecocks, the show.
If you're in the real estate market in the Low Country or even in the Midlands, please contact me, JB, with Coast to Coast Realty SC. You hear me and see me every day here on Inside the Gamecocks, and it would be an honor to earn your business. I've been around real estate my entire life, as it's somewhat of a family business. I work with an elite team of experts from loans to insurance to closing, and they make my clients and my life very easy. It really is elite. Coast to Coast Realty SC.com is where you can find our staff, and you can always reach out to me here as well. Go Gamecocks.
Coach O here, and when I'm not eating average jambalaya or celebrating endless summer in Destin, I like to eat pimento cheese straight out the bucket. And the only pimento cheese I like to eat is from Nana's Porch. It's award-winning. It'll melt in your mouth. It's good on a cracker. It's good in a bowl. It's good on a piece of bread. Also, don't forget Nana's Porch has a hell of a food truck. It's award-winning as well, and they're here for all of your catering needs. So get online, nanasporch.com. It's good. Coach O signing off. Endless summer, go Tiger.
Ladies and gentlemen, here it is.
Welcome home. That's what the Gamecocks say, and so does the Barn Dough Company, where they can build your dream home starting as low as $160 per square foot. If you live in the Carolinas, Georgia, or Tennessee, their turnkey process takes just 4 to 6 months on average and can be custom designed by size and details. Make your dream a reality. Visit thebarndominiumco.com. That's thebarndominiumco.com. The Barn Dough Company, Gamecock, owned and operated.
Welcome to TravelingCountryClub.com, your modern golf club experience. Hey folks, this is Michael Manus, former Gamecock golfer, inviting you to play more golf with a membership to TravelingCountryClub.com. With over 40 courses across the Carolinas, our membership provides you with an affordable way to enjoy a club-like golf experience. From the mountains to the coast, we offer golf courses that will challenge all types of golfers, no matter your handicap level or level of play. Plus, we offer unique membership benefits not seen anywhere else as part of Traveling Country Club. Tee it up with Traveling Country Club, TravelingCountryClub.com, TravelingCountryClub.com, proud partners of Inside the Gamecocks, the show.
Hey everybody, this is Mo Copper from Carolina Football. The show is painted garden and black every day by a couple of painters. Go to letmepaintsomething.com to check them out. Go Cox.
10% off for military repeat customers or mention the show. Interior, exterior painting, fencing, cabinet staining, concrete painting, popcorn ceiling removal, and more. 803-522-6832. Letmepaintsomething.com.
Chicken.
Phil, there's
rooster.
There's billboards everywhere now for South Carolina. If you haven't noticed in Columbia, the Carolina Rise billboards are up, and they are awesome. Awesome. Carolina Rise members.com. And on I-77 headed to Charlotte, a sandstorm is coming, is what the rest of them read. So it's getting closer and closer to football season.
I haven't seen the Carolina Rise billboards. Are they the harbor picture or no?
Yeah, one of them is.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's
looks like that.
There it is. Old Nick Carver. Thanks to Park Avenue and Carolina Rise. Nick Carver is one of the neatest NIL athletes in all of the country. Thanks to Carolina Rise and Park Avenue. Pretty cool stuff. All right. So kind of finishing that discussion there, Phil, there's a couple of things that need to be considered with what's happening right now. Number one is we don't know what's happening right now, and we're not going to know. So are they just going to continue to change the playoff system every time the conferences realign themselves? Because apparently this can just happen at any point in time, regardless of what any contract says, right? So they set up this playoff system in line with what college football looked like. What if it changes again? You going to change it again? So you see that you're getting to a point where it's getting a little ridiculous. Why are we having this conversation? Why are we having to have this conversation? There should be structure. Like this is it. You might have to alter your playoff system every so often, as in every, I don't know, couple of decades or something. That might happen. You know, Major League Baseball, the NFL, they've all expanded wild card spots and things like that. I get it, but they're not fundamentally changing their playoff system because the league is fundamentally changing where teams are. Like, that's not how it works. So that is something they have to come up with, something that they're going to be able, that is going to be able to handle any future realignment changes or adjustments in college athletics. And then also, if you, and this is going back to what I said just a little while ago, like if conference championships matter and you want to make them matter, and maybe you want to somehow, at least to attempt to slow down or prevent more upheaval, major conference realignment, then go ahead and expand it and reward conference championships and allow them to get in regardless of what league it is. Just make the playoff larger. Make sure that all of your at-larges are going to get in, so you got the best teams that maybe didn't win the best leagues, but they're still the best teams in the country, that they can get into the playoff and then get all the conference champions in there. Because if you think about it, you know, if you have if it's guaranteed that you're a conference champion regardless of what league you're in, that you're going to be into the college football playoff, like that itself is going to change a lot of the thought process. You see what I'm saying? As far as like, well, okay, for instance, it's not going to change everybody's, because clearly it doesn't matter to Clemson. Technically could be in there every single year and should be playing in the ACC, but apparently they want a piece of the Big Ten or the SEC or whatever they want, and it's not going to happen if they make that move. But I mean, if you were the Pac-12 and it was guaranteed that your conference champion is in there every single year, and you've got a larger pool of playoff money to go around that's going to help offset some of this, what it all comes down to is money. That might actually prevent somebody from leaving to go do something else. I'm not saying that it will. I'm saying that it's something that needs to be discussed. I don't have the answers there. I don't know. I have never sat in that room. All I'm saying is these are things that are going to have to come up, and they're going to have to look at it. And then they're going to have to figure out what's best for the sport. And then I go back to what, Jimmy was saying here in our chat box just a minute ago. Maybe just make it the best teams. Now, I don't know that I would do it with the AP, because the AP, they find a way to screw things up from time to time. These are just voters. And these guys, remember, they don't watch every game, just like the coaches. They don't see every game. They don't watch every game, and they don't have the analytics. Now, I'm not saying that the committee gets it right every year either, Phil, because we certainly have all had our discrepancies over the last eight or nine seasons or so about some teams that got in that probably shouldn't have been in there. I'm not saying that it's perfect, but I am saying I think I wouldn't just revert to the AP and say we're going to take the top 12 teams or whatever it's going to be. So I don't know what they're going to do, but I do know this. Whatever they come up with, they probably just learned a lesson, which is this thing needs to be able to survive more realignment in the future, because we might think it's done. It ain't done. It's going to keep happening.
Yeah. I don't have the faith that you do that they're going to learn their lesson here, JB, because Because now everybody's got to look to the College Football Playoff Committee, and they are now incredibly important, and they get to make a huge, this monumental decision that will affect college football. And if they constrain themselves to something very narrow that does not account for realignment, then everybody's got to come crawling right back and make them feel important again every 2 years. So I don't necessarily have faith that they're going to fix the system in such a way that it will be able to, just conform to any further realignment. The biggest problem is, and I was a little nervous about this when they went to 12, is because the more teams you let in, the more teams will have solid arguments for being left out. At 4, it's a fairly simple system. You might have 6 teams. There might be a couple of teams that could legitimately say we should be in. But if you've got 12, I mean, because think about what's the difference between 11 to 25 in any poll? Not very much. And and when you think about 13 through say 17 or 19, then you could legitimately have, cases where if you did let, just the top whatever in, there's going to be so many more voices that have legitimate claims to being able to be that 12th spot, as opposed to the 1 or 2 that can say they could have been 4.
Well, and see, I'm on the other side of that, and unless I misunderstood you. I like that. I like the fact that we could be entering the month of November, and if it stays at a 12-team, let's say that it goes to the just the top 12 teams. I think that they're going to end up changing the way that they're going to select the college football playoff. But that's just my opinion.
Yeah, well, I think so too. I mean, I think you have to at this point. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think they have to. So let's say that they go to, hey, look, it's just going to be the 12 best teams. That's what we're doing. Because whatever. All right, fine. I like the fact that you, at that point in time, enter the month of November with essentially the top 25 programs in whatever poll you read fighting for a spot to get into the playoff. Now, where this conversation gets halted sometimes, or maybe argued would be a better word, is, okay, right, I hear you, but how many of those teams can realistically win the national championship? Fair. That's to your point, Phil. I mean, generally there's only 3. Sometimes there's only 1. Like last year, I don't think there was anybody that was going to beat Georgia. But okay, but that's
just on any given Saturday pulls one off.
Yeah, but that's fair. That's fair. Okay, there's only 2-3 teams that can win the. Okay, fine. Okay, great.
Yeah,
but if for the sport itself, if you want to see like a good quality playoff, or you want to see interest really, really rack it up, like let me throw it this way: South Carolina walks into the month of November this year in a 12-team playoff at 6-2. They've played 8 games. They're 6-2 going into November. They got 4 straight games at home. At 6-2 in the current system, Phil, and we're fans of the Gamecocks here. Okay, it's 6-2 in the current system, and those 2 losses being, I don't know, whatever, on the road in Athens and on the road in College Station. They would be 3-4, and that would put them at 4-2 in the league. They're not winning the East, and they're not winning the SEC championship. So they're 6-2 going into the month of November with 4 straight games at home, and they are 23rd in the country. They're playing for a playoff berth, and this is something
yeah.
You see what I'm saying? Like, and so like now,
no, and I like that aspect of it, JB, where everybody, you're in it until you're not, but it's where, you have these little arguments now. Then, okay, how many 9 and, say 3 teams exist between, 13 to 20, or how many, 9 or 8 and 4 teams exist in that. And not all 8 and 4s are created equal, especially in the current conference situation. And it will continue to be so as the conference is realigned next year. And so it's just going to be more people screaming about how they didn't get in. And I think that's going to overshadow a lot of those first round games, in that you're going to have so many people saying, oh, this team would have done this team would have done that, against, say if you give the top 4 bye, again, your 5-12 matchup, if you will.
Yeah.
If your 5-12 matchup is an 8 and 4 out of let's say a weak Big 12, or a 9 and 3 out of a weak Big 12, where you left out an 8 and 4 from the SEC, you're like, well, head to head, those two teams, neutral field, the SEC team probably would have pulled it off, but they had one less loss. So it's like you're going to dig into what their thought processes were and all of this. And that's just one of the things that I thought it was like, with the more teams you let in, the more controversy you create on the back end for people to talk about and to overshadow the actual product on the field.
But would it though? Like it would until the games start. You know what I mean? Like, and
until you play. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And that's always been college football, like this is literally the most imperfect sport on the planet. Like nobody knows who's in charge. Nobody knows. I mean, the NCAA can punish you, but yet they have nothing to do with playoff. And, it doesn't make any sense. Like they literally have nothing to do with the postseason, but yet somehow they can tell you can't play in it. That, there's every year, every 2 years, some restructuring. It is so imperfect, and that's why we all love it. I have long been for an expanded playoff, because I think that the more teams that have a shot at getting into it in the month of November, the better the sport is. I'm and it leaves the door open. I'm not saying it will happen, but we don't know. We can't prove it one way or another. It leaves the door open that something crazy could happen with an expanded playoff. When you have the 4 and basically only 2 teams that can win it every year, that's kind of what the sport has shifted to, just focusing on that. And they'll do the same thing in an expanded playoff. It's 12 teams, 16 teams, whatever. One time, and it will happen. Let's say they go to 12 teams and they go to the best 12 teams ever, or the best 12 teams in the sport. It will happen. Maybe they do it for 4 years, and on that 5th year, number 1 Ohio State gets 12th seeded whatever Florida, and the Gators shock them. And like that will happen once. And that's what I think this sport needs more of. And you can't get more of it unless you build an opportunity to do that. Now, how they get there, I don't know. And that's the point. Like you and I are sitting here having these discussions. We don't have all the answers, but we're also saying things that kind of also make a little bit of sense for the growth of the sport. And I've long maintained, Mike Morgan has argued with me about this for years, and I'm not saying he's wrong, and I'm not saying I'm wrong. I don't know who's right, but I don't know how you can. Like every year, Phil, what is there? 2 teams, 3 teams max that can win the national championship, right? Fair?
Yeah. I'd say that's fair.
If I asked you 3 years ago, who are the 3 best teams in college football, who would you have said? 3 years
ago? You'd probably go, Alabama, Ohio State. Would you put Georgia in at that point?
Probably.
Yeah, probably 3 years ago. Yeah, because they were on the upswing. 19 turned it. They finished strong. Yeah.
Who are the 3 best? If I asked you who are the 3 best programs in college football today, what would you say?
I mean, you probably list them. Same 3. Yeah, that's the
okay.
thing.
All right. And if I said predict who are the 3 best programs going to be in college football in 3 years, who would you say?
There again, I mean,
all right.
The rich just continue to stay rich.
We could sit here exactly. We could throw scenarios out there and say, well, maybe Southern Cal by that time, maybe LSU's back, maybe. But those are the 3 safest answers every year, as long as Nick Saban's there and all that type of stuff. So here's my point though. If you want to be able to grow that group of 3 to maybe 5, you have to provide a larger platform for people to grow on, and like. If you can't get into the playoff, it's a lot different if you are. Let's not use South Carolina here. Let's use let's use Tennessee. If Tennessee is getting into a 12-team playoff 2-3 straight years in a row, that's going to parallel them, or that's going to shoot their program to the moon, as in it's now being considered probably one of the best programs in the country. If they're 10-2 every year and they're getting to the Outback Bowl or the Cotton Bowl or the Sugar Bowl or whatever, but they're not getting into the playoff because they're 10-2, they're always going to be on that second tier. And when you get to that first tier, good things start happening. That's what happened to Georgia. That's what happened to Clemson. Just saying.
Yeah. And the other thing I think that clouds this whole discussion is, how are these mega conferences going to do their scheduling?
I don't know.
Because you could, you could stack that in such a way where, you've created middling teams that have excellent records.
Yep.
Because you can't play 19 teams. So, let's just say you're in the Big East and you're not Big East. So let's bring back the Big East. That make it more interesting. No, Big Ten. And, Iowa is a perfect example of this. Iowa, gets to avoid Ohio State, Michigan, Washington, USC. There's 4 big ones right there you don't have to play. And then you pull an upset at like Oregon.
Right.
And then next thing you know, oh wow, this is an 11-1 Iowa team who really hasn't showed us anything.
Right. I don't know what they're going to do.
There's just so many questions now.
Yeah, it's and I know we're out of time here, but these mega conferences are making it more difficult for the programs in their leagues to be able to achieve the highest success in college football. Not easier at all, but it's about the money. And somebody every year is going to be representing your league, at least from the SEC and the Big Ten. So,
yeah,
that's
I loved it. Greg Sankey's comments, even outside of the playoff, on Feinbaum yesterday, it was like, well, we don't have to exist in 4 time zones to be relevant on the West Coast. True. I thought one of the more telling things he said was he actually, kind of reinforced the regionality of the conference itself, which may actually point to, if there were expansion in the SEC, that it's more than likely going to either be within the footprint or directly contiguous with.
Yeah. Yep. I don't know, man. Days. There was a time in my life where I thought I was the smartest man in the world, but that was in my early 20s. I don't think that way anymore.
No, yeah, right. Yeah, you grow out of that. Well, you should.
Supposed to.
Some people don't.
Some people don't, that's for sure. Thanks to David Cloninger for joining us today. Tomorrow, JC returns. We'll also be joined tomorrow by Perry Orth, Chris Phillips, and Mike Morgan. It is a jam-packed Thirsty Thursday program here on Inside the Gamecocks. You all, as I mentioned last week, once again today have a homework assignment, and that is to tell your friends about the all-new Chief Sports app. It houses our program, JC and Morgan, and soon more. Keep your eyes peeled for that. Can't wait. You also can check the high school scoreboard and so much more. Support our partners on there as well. If you need something, check there first, please. If you need something, whatever it is, something catered, something done to your house, you need to buy a new house, you need a sign made, you need whatever it is, check our partnerships first, please. Insurance. And if you don't find what you're looking for, then you can go to the rest of the internet. But please pull up that Chief Sports app before you do anything else. For Phil, I'm JB. Have a wonderful Wednesday afternoon. We'll see you tomorrow at 11. Inside the Gamecocks, the show built by the Barndo Co. and always live from the Signorama Studios.